The diner was too quiet for a Monday morning. Even the sound of a spoon against a coffee cup felt loud. Sunlight pushed through the wide windows, streaking across the chrome tables and the old checkerboard floor. At the corner booth sat Walter Branson, 81 years old, Korean War veteran, the kind of man who still showed up every morning at 8:15, like clockwork, in his faded flannel shirt and worn leather boots. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted his black coffee, but his eyes, steady and clear, still carried the quiet strength of someone who'd seen darker mornings than this one. Then came the voice, sharp, angry, breaking through the calm like glass. That a young man at the counter was arguing with the waitress about his bill. The words got louder, meaner. Everyone pretended not to listen, but all eyes flicked his way, and then the man turned. He caught Walter watching him, just quietly observing, no judgment, just presence. But something about that calm seemed to light a fuse before anyone could react. The man stormed across the diner and slapped Walter hard across the face. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The waitress gasped. Cups rattled. Walter didn't fall. He didn't even speak. He just pressed a weathered hand to his cheek and looked at the man. Confused not by pain, but by cruelty, the room froze. No one moved. The waitress whispered for the man to leave, but he only laughed and walked back to his seat, grinning like nothing had happened. Walter stayed still. His heart wasn't angry, just heavy. He'd fought real wars, but this felt like something worse. The loss of respect, the fading of simple decency. He sat there for almost an hour, finishing the coffee that had gone cold. The others kept their eyes down. No one spoke to him. Then, the bell above the door jingled, and everything changed. A group of bikers stepped inside. Black leather vests, heavy boots, tattoos winding down their arms. The kind of men who carried presence before they said a word. Their center was one taller than the rest, gray streaking through his beard. His eyes sharp and searching. He saw Walter and froze. A hush rolled through the diner as the biker's expression softened. He walked over, his steps slow, deliberate. Then he slid into the booth across from the old man and placed a rough, calloused hand on top of Walter's trembling one. For a moment, they just looked at each other, father and son. Thomas Branson. Years of distance hung in the silence between them, years of misunderstandings and unspoken love. But now none of that mattered. Blood did. Across the diner, the thug was still there. He noticed the bikers and smirked. "What, old man? You had to call your gang?" he sneered. The customers stiffened again, bracing for violence. But Thomas didn't move. He didn't shout. He just turned his gaze toward the man who had struck his father, steady, unflinching. His friends stood quietly behind him, a wall of calm strength. Thomas spoke low, his voice gravelly but controlled. "That man you hit is my father. He's 81 years old. He fought for this country while you were still learning to walk. And you think it's tough to raise a hand to him?" The smirk faded. Silence spread like wildfire through the room. The weight of what Thomas said hung heavy in the air. The thug's eyes darted around, looking for support, but found none. Even the waitress, her hand still shaking, stared at him with quiet disgust. Thomas didn't threaten him. He didn't stand. He didn't have to. His words carried more force than any punch ever could. The man mumbled something and backed toward the door. He pushed it open and stumbled out into the daylight, leaving his half-eaten breakfast behind. And one followed. Shame would do that work for them. Walter exhaled slowly, a long, shaky breath. His shoulders dropped, and for the first time that morning, he smiled, just a little. His son had defended him, not with violence, but with respect. The waitress quietly poured them both fresh coffee. Around the diner, whispers began, soft, guilty ones from those who had watched and done nothing. Some stood and walked over to Walter, apologizing, thanking him for his service and for his patience. The room felt lighter now, like someone had lifted a curtain and let the sunlight back in. Thomas leaned forward, his voice softer now. "Dad," he said, "I should have been around more." Walter looked at him, eyes misting over. "I fought battles long ago, son," he said, "but keeping family close, that's the hardest fight of all." Thomas nodded. His tough exterior cracked just a little. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. From that morning on, everything changed. Walter and Thomas began meeting at that same booth every week. Sometimes the other bikers came too, always greeting Walter with a handshake and quiet respect. The waitress saved their spot by the window, the one where the sunlight hit just right. Over time, the old man became a legend in that diner. Not because of what happened that day, but because of the peace that followed. That he wasn't just the veteran in the corner anymore. He was the reminder of something deeper, that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it sits quietly with a cup of coffee and forgives. One rainy morning, months later, a familiar sound broke through the diner's hum. The bell above the door and the hesitant steps of a young man. It was him, the one who had struck Walter. He stood there for a long time, eyes down, drenched from the rain. Then, without saying a word, he walked up to Walter's table and set down a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "I was raised without knowing what respect meant. That day you taught me. I'm sorry." Walter read it slowly, folded it once, and slipped it into his flannel pocket. He didn't say a word, just nodded. And for the first time, the young man smiled, relieved, maybe forgiven, and left as quietly as he'd come. "Before you go, wait till you hear what happens next. Stay with us." That letter became Walter's most prized possession. He kept it in his wallet, beside an old photo of Thomas in his first leather vest. Sometimes, he'd show it to the waitress when the diner was slow. "Proof," he'd say with a small grin, "that kindness still wins." And every time Thomas walked through that door, the place seemed to glow a little warmer. The biker world and the quiet veteran world, two paths that rarely met, had found peace at a diner table, over coffee and forgiveness. Walter Branson passed away a few years later, peacefully, sitting at that same booth. The waitress said he had a faint smile on his face, as if he knew he wasn't alone. The next morning, a row of bikes lined the street outside the diner. Engines silent, helmets resting on the tables inside. They didn't ride that day. They just sat in his booth, drank black coffee, and raised their cups to the man who taught them that real strength isn't in fists or fury. It's in forgiveness. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom, where we bring real stories of kindness, courage, and second chances. Because sometimes, the quietest moments tell the loudest truths.